Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NTI Day 9. We are almost to spring break. Here is your daily video to help you out with your math assignment. So today, you are going to be looking at linear relationships. Remember to start out with your cheat sheet here and to let your cheat sheet help you out as you are completing the review problems. So the first thing we'll do is we'll review what slope-intercept form is. So with slope-intercept form, we have y equals mx plus b, where the m is the slope. That's only the m. So the m is the slope, and the b is the y-intercept. So where the line crosses the y-axis. And your slope, your m, is your rise over your run. Over here, we find slope. You can use this formula. You can take two ordered pairs and do y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. But remember, we do stack and subtract. So we stack the two ordered pairs and we subtract them. And then we put our y over our x. We find the y-intercept by finding the value of y when x is 0. So that's just essentially saying whenever the line crosses the y-axis, so like right here, that is your y-intercept because x would be 0 at that point. And then using that, we can write our equation in slope-intercept form. So you would find your slope by doing your rise and your run and using 2 points. So an example is right here. Your y-intercept is 1 because that is where the line crosses the y-axis. This is the y, this is the x. And then your slope, you take 2 points and you count your rise and your run. You rise 1, run 2, so your slope is 1 over 2. So you would write it as y equals 1 over 2x, where m is 1 over 2, rise over run, and 1 is your y-intercept where it crosses the y-axis. Okay? All right, linear relationships can be represented verbally with an equation and with a graph and with a table. So here is going to be your multiple representations of linear relationships. So verbally, so a puppy weighs 2 pounds at birth. That's your y-intercept. That's where it started. So the puppy started at 2 pounds and it gains half a pound every week. So that half a pound that it gains each week, that's your rate of change. That's how quickly the puppy's weight changes. So that's our slope, because slope is rate of change. So every week it'll gain half a pound. Where did it start? At 2 pounds. And that's your y-intercept, because that's where the line starts. So each week here, which is your x, the puppy started here when it was born at 2, and then every week it gained half a pound. When you graph it, start at 2 pounds, go up 1 over 2, because that's a slope of half, 1/2, half a pound. Up 1 over 2, half a pound every week. And then right over here, here's just an example of an equation with a data table right here. So remember, if you wanted to find your slope, you could stack and subtract. So here's one ordered pair, here's another ordered pair, and we subtract them. 7 minus -1 is 8 because it becomes plus a positive, and 4 minus 2 would be 2. So you would put this one on top, so it would be 8 over 2. So that would give you your slope of 4. Your y-intercept, if you'll remember, is wherever x is 0. So when x is 0, y is 9. So then you write it, y equals 4x, that's your m, minus 9, which is your y-intercept. All right, if an equation is linear, so how do we know something is linear? So if an equation is linear, it must be in y equals mx plus b. If you had an exponent like y equals x squared, that is not linear. No exponents in our linear equations. Non-linear, so here's just another example, 3x squared plus 2. If a graph is linear, it will have a straight line. It will always have a straight line. If it's a curved line, then you know it's not linear. Okay? Now, we could also have things like x equals 2 or y equals 2. And that's just how we would get our vertical lines. So this y equals 2 is saying, hey, that's just going to be a y-intercept. It's just going to go across the y-axis. Here's your y, here's your x. It's just going to go across the y-axis at 2. X equals 2 is just saying, hey, it's going to go across the x-axis at 2. So that's just how you're going to get your vertical and your horizontal lines. Okay, now that we went through our cheat sheet, let's hop on over to our problems. All right, here we go. Okay, number 1. Which of the statements about the graph is true? So the graph is nonlinear and has an equation of y equals negative x plus 18. The graph is linear and has an equation of negative x plus 18. The graph is linear and has an equation of negative 2x plus 18. None of the statements are true. All right, so refer back to our cheat sheet about what makes something linear, and then you need to count your slope. You're falling, so since we're falling, we know our slope is going to be negative. So take 2 points, count how many you fall and how many you run. And that's how you'll figure out what is your slope. Right here is your y-intercept. Okay. Number 2. The table below shows the amount that a catering company charges based on the number of people at an event. Which of the following equations shows the relationship between C, the amount of money the company charges based on P, the number of people at the event? So you come right here and you can kind of figure out what is your equation. So we know our equation is going to be y equals mx plus b. Take 2 points and find your slope. So stack and subtract. So let's do 50 and 725. Subtract 25 and 400. And whenever you subtract those, remember this one will go on top because it's your y. And this one will go on the bottom because it's your x. So y over x. Once you do that, you should be able to figure out which equation is the correct one. Now notice the amount the company charges is C, so that's probably your total. And then based on P, the number of people, that's probably something that we're going to have to keep in mind as well. So you need to know which one's your X and which one's your Y to figure out which one of these is going to be correct. Which of the following gives an example of an equation that is non-linear? So refer back to what I just reviewed to figure out which one of these would be a linear equation. So which one of them is going to be a straight line when we graph it? Number 4. So Kit charges customers an initial fee plus a certain amount per hour. Remember we talked about how that initial fee, that's your y-intercept. So they charge them an initial fee plus an amount per hour. That's their rate of change, so that's probably going to be your M. The table below shows the amount of money that Kit earns at her job based on the number of hours that she works. Which of the following equations represents a scenario where Kit would charge customers a higher hourly rate to walk their pets than what is shown in the table? So this one, what you have to do is you have to figure out what is my equation for this table. Really, what's the slope? Because I want to know what would be, which one of these options right here has a higher hourly rate? Meaning, which one has a higher slope? Which one of them is the slope higher than this table? So find the slope of this table to figure out which one of these options has a higher rate of change. So stack and subtract. Remember, if you put your higher numbers on the top, it's going to keep you from having to deal with negatives. Number 5, find the slope and the y-intercept of the linear function below. So take 2 points, find your slope, and then find your y-intercept, so where it crosses the y-axis. All right. Alan buys the same number of baseball cards each month to add to a card collection he was given. Use the table to determine how many baseball cards he was given and how many he buys each month. Once again, stack and subtract. And remember, we got to do it like this, because this is your X and this is your Y. So something like 5 and 80. I'm going to put that higher, larger ordered pair on top so I don't have to deal with negatives. Stack and subtract. The number you get here goes on top because it's your Y. And the number you get here goes on the bottom because it's your X. Okay? And that'll be your fraction. And that's how you can find your rate of change or your slope. All right. Which table shows a relationship between x and y where y is always equal to 8 less than the product of x and 3? All right, so we have to figure out, what is this equation that it's talking about up here? What is this equation? So y, write it as you read it, like I taught you guys. Y is always equal to 8 less than the product. That means multiply. The product of x and 3. So there's your equation. Now, which table shows that? So which of these tables shows that when I multiply x by 3 and subtract 8, I get y? So for example, if this is my equation, y equals 3x minus 8, if I take this table here, let's see if this is the correct one, and I substitute in my negative 5 for x. So we're going to put negative 5 for x. Do I get negative 43? So this is negative 15 minus 8. So then y equals negative 15 minus 8. So that's going to give me negative 23. Okay, so I needed it to be negative 43. So that tells me that F is not the answer because that data table does not match up to this equation. Because when I substitute X, I do not get that Y. I got something else. So it's not going to be this one. So figure out which of these is the answer. Now be careful. Be really careful because you'll notice they look very similar, some of their answers. So be really careful. All right, and the last one. Zane owes his dad money for his cell phone that he lost. So far, Zane has paid his dad $23, and he will pay his dad an additional $45 every month. So remember, when he's paid something like that initial fee, that's our y-intercept. And he will pay his dad $45 per month. So remember we talked about how like that's a repeating value, and if it's a repeating value, then we know we're going to put it with the variable. We're going to put it with x. It's got to be our slope. That must be our slope if it's repeating. So until he has repaid the phone, which equation shows the relationship between m? Oh, and I just gave you the answer. So freebie. Have a freebie on me today. All right. All right. I miss you guys. I love you guys. I hope that you are safe and healthy and that you're having fun and that you enjoy this beautiful, beautiful day we're about to have today. So go enjoy this day. I'm going to be having a Google Hangout tomorrow. I'll email you guys out the time. So just look out for that email. Okay. All right. As always, if you need anything, please let me know. Have a great day.